Few things make me crabbier than having to work with APA, and I guess also working with OneNote is a little bit barf-inducing too, because the little pens don't work when I want them to. But here we go. This is a quick guide to APA citations in the 7th edition. So remember that there is a site that you can go to that isn't all that helpful. It's for apastyle.apa.org. They want you to buy the book. If you didn't, who could blame you? No, you probably should. There's also a library guide from a different CSU. It looks like it's from Dominguez Hills. You can go there and take a look at their resources if you'd like. And there's also the OWL APA site that I've been referencing that I'll show you in a little bit later. So basically, a couple of things that I will want to mention is that I will go over in-text citations in a little bit when I look at an APA paper. That's the next thing I'm going to do. But for right now, let's just get to know how to do in-text citations. Like, let's say you got a quote, and after that quotation, at the end of the quotation, you have a reference, Abrams, comma, space, 2018, period. That's the way it's going to go. So you take the author, the last name of the author, and put it here if there's only one author on the article. Now let's say that you got two authors. In this case, you'll have your quotation, you'll have your end punctuation here. Those are quotation marks. And you got two authors, so it's, parentheses, last name capitalized, of course, space, ampersand, space, next author, comma, 1994, period. Now, three or more authors, you can do what's called et al. So you got your quote here, Harris, space, et al. Dot. That's an abbreviation for and others, comma, space, 2018, and then a period. Now, when I was young and going to graduate school 1,001 years ago, we used to have to put out all of the authors. Like if there were three authors, like it was Busalis, ampersand, I don't know how to do an ampersand, Busalis, comma, 2001, let's say. You had to spell all of them out first, and then you could abbreviate as Bu et al. Thereafter. But things may have changed in APA 7, and I'll be honest with you, I have not bothered to look just yet. And that's, I'm not writing the paper, so take a look, all right? Oops. See, I told you, APA makes me crabby. Now, let's say you just got a group of authors that can't identify who is who or who is whom or what have you. Who is who? I know it's who is who. You do it like this. You got your quotation marks, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and then you bracket CDC 2019, and then all subsequent citations are as follows like this. And so it's going to, you bracket this because it's an organization, and then you're going to essentially be referring to the acronym thereafter. So that's how that works. Now for my next trick, let's take a look and see how to do some of the most common things that you're going to encounter, which are as follows. That being the journal article. Now, here's how to do this. If you look at citing a journal article, let's notice a couple of things first. Notice first that you have a bit of a indenture right here on subsequent lines. That's about 5 whatevers in Microsoft Word, and so it's an indenture about 1/2 inch. And you can see a separate video that I did on how to do the indenting and everything else that I did later. Now let's take a look at a couple of other things that are important in here, which include the following, and let's look at what the following happen to be. And that is how to do the author names. Now this is the big deal here. Okay, so let's count up how many authors we got. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did I do that right? Let me try again. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, in the old days, it looked like if you had more than 8 authors, you could just put in dots, like right about here, but you don't care about that. It looks like we're putting all of the authors out now in APA 7, so whoop-de-ding-do, right? Here's how you do this, all right? Look, if you got one author, then it's just capital A, and then if there's another hyphenated name, capital G, comma, and then the first initial period. Now, if the second initial, the middle name, is available, then you add it, capital T, and then a period, comma, followed by the next author, capital P, comma, G, period, comma. And you just keep repeating that same pattern all the way through. Notice that this person did have the first and the middle initial, but in this case, no. So that's why you get, a shorter, you don't get both initials in there. That's the reason for that. Now, in order to do one author, it's really easy. You can look at the examples that are provided elsewhere, but basically you would just not put the comma there. You'd put in 1994, like this. If you had only two authors, then you would have an amp. Well, we'll get to that down here a little bit. We'll see that in a second. Now, it looks like I'm making all kinds of a mess all over this thing here. APA, this is your fault. And actually, this is all my fault. I should have been a high-velocity air conditioner repair person like my father yelled at me to do after he found out I majored in English, but enough about me. So you list out all of the authors just as you see here, and before the last one, we got to put in our little friend, the ampersand, then the last author, period, space, 2004, period, space, and then you come in with a journal article with the title. Now look at this. You capitalize the first, but you don't capitalize anything else, and then after a colon, if there is one, then you capitalize that. Now look, proper nouns are capitalized. Here is a capital, there is a capital, here is a capital, and here is a capital. And then you return to no caps when you get beyond the proper nouns. That ends with a period. So this is how you do in a journal article. It's really straightforward. You then will italicize the name of the journal. You'll italic, comma, space, and then you'll italicize the volume number, and then in parentheses, but unitalicized, is the number. If you've got the number, comma, space, 408 to 428, and then period. And then you can put in the DOI number if you got it. I'm not a stickler for that. All right, let's move on to a web page. Let's say you pulled something off of a web page and it came from the American Nurses Association. That's fine, list it out. ND stands for no date, because if you don't know what the date was, you don't put it in. But notice you do have to do a period and a space right here. No date, N period, D period, no space, close parens, period, and a space. You do italicize this title, but again, notice the pattern. Capital D, but a lowercase p, period, followed by where you found the thing. You don't have to do the retrieve by date stuff anymore like we did when I was a young shaver. All right, let's move on to this one, a news article. Here are two authors. Here's what it looks like, everybody. You got Creswell, comma, space, J, period, comma, space, ampersand. So there is a comma, space, ampersand here. Space, Kaplan, comma, space, S, period, space. Oh my God. And then you follow that by the year, comma, space, and the month and the date, period. And here is the title, not italicized. How Juul hooked a generation on nicotine, period, space. The New York Times, period, and then the link from which you got it. I would presume if available. Okay, moving on to a book. Here's how you do a book, everybody. Here's the author and the year. It's just like everything else that we've looked at, but don't forget the space right there, followed by evidence hyphen, lowercase, 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 colon, uppercase. Lowercase, 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 lowercase. If it's an edition, you put in the edition number like that. And then you just end with the publisher. That's it. You don't have to do the city or any other stuff at all anymore. Okay, so that's the quick guide. I'll start recording again and we'll do the actual paper, which looks like this, and I'll show you where you can get it. Okay, all right, be back in a second with more. Ugh. So I wanted to show you where I got the paper from. It says all APA 7 paper. If we follow that link or follow those search terms, It's right up here. It is the one that says clearly APA Publication Manual, 7th edition, blah, 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 blah. And then we come over here and don't use this citation generator. Stay away from these things because it's always wrong and then it just gives me more work in trying to correct it, okay? After the class is done, do as you please. See, I told you APA makes me crabby. I didn't mean that. I said, please avoid, here, let me try that again. Please avoid using citation generators and be sure that you check the citation to make sure that it is correct. All right, that's a little better. So here's a student paper that I downloaded. There's a professional paper down here that you can look at, which I highly recommend that you look at both. But I'm just going to look at the first thing that I happen to download, which was this thing right here. So I'm going to get rid of that, and what I want to focus on are quotations and citations for ideas that are not your own. And I'm blowing by all of this other stuff here, but you should read it. But make sure you're reading for a thesis or a dissertation if that's what you're working on, or a project or what have you. So here's what I wanted to show you, and it's the first thing that I'm going to show you, and that is how we introduce quotations in APA style. You have some options to vary this, but just take a look at this. This is clearly for a work that is from a single author. And I'm having some pen problems here. No, I'm not. According to Thiel, if that's how we're pronouncing that, space 2017, comma, space, and it's a direct quote. So you begin with the quotation, followed by the quote itself. Notice that you use 3 dots, ellipses, it looks like, to show that you've eliminated something. It looks like there's even a space here, but check that in the manual if you have to. I'm not going to. Notice that you can capitalize the first F right here. Moving along, you go to the end, no period, followed by the page or page numbers, and that would be the letter P, period, or multiple pages, 2 P's, PP. All right, okay. Period, space, 91 through 94, what have you. But that's the basic way to do it. Now let's look at another example. Here you're either paraphrasing or you're citing a bit of information that is not your own, and then you're going to cite, you're going to attribute this to Lewis, comma, space, 1996, comma, and then you can continue on with the balance of your sentences right here. All right, moving on, you can see that pattern just simply repeats for ideas that are not your own or for quotations that you are paraphrasing or that you're doing directly. You will list them out. I did want to pay attention to this item right here, if I may, and that's this. That's this part right here. In this section, the author of this paper has stacked a number of references. One from Gaff and Simpson, Lewis, and McKeechee. Notice that it's in alphabetical order. G, L, and M. We're not following the year of publication. It's alphabetical order. Now, let me tell you something, my friends. The only time you do this is when you have all of the articles. So maybe in a previous study, or in the article in Gaff, for example, Gaff had cited Lewis and McKeechee. You can't just take Gaff's references and drop them in here like this. It's not right. You actually must have the sources in hand and have read them. Otherwise, it's a no-no. At least that's what I was taught when I was in grad school a billion years ago. Anyway, moving on. Here is another common thing that students will encounter, which is that you have Selden, 1993, as cited in Pounder 2007, finds that 86% of higher educational blah, blah, blah. So what this is saying is that you are taking this quote actually out of Pounder 2007. So you didn't have the primary source in front of you, so you didn't as cited in. Now, let me tell you something. There's no reason to do this unless you absolutely cannot find this article. If it's been gone from long ago, it's a secondary source, and if you can't find it, then you're allowed to do this. At least that was the case when I was a kid. But it looks like you need to, it is important that you do this if you're going to take quotes from someplace else. Now, moving along here, here's another example where you have Boring et al. 2007, semicolon, Galbraith et al. 2017. It says sources with three or more authors are cited via the first listed author's name followed by the Latin phrase et al. Note the period comes after et al. Rather than et. Well, looks like we're just doing et al. For three or more now, regardless of whether or not you spelled them all out the first time. There. Let's see what other things I highlighted in this little document here, shall we? Oh, I guess it was this one. I think I already said this. Well, no, I didn't. But in this case, you're really just trying to tell the author, or the reader rather, you're just trying to tell the reader what you're doing. In this case, you're citing a paraphrase or a idea that is not your own. This comes from Hattie 2009. Or you're telling the reader in this case that there are other sources that can be used to read up on teaching effectiveness. And you could see, comma, space, E period G, that's for a Hempli gratia or whatever the Latin is, space, Bloom et al., Cashin and Thial. So look, you're just telling the reader that they can go someplace else to look up something right here. You're referring it out through C. In this case here, you are actually citing an idea that is not your own. All right, so that's the difference in that one. That was on page 8 of this document. Let's see if there's anything else in here that I wanted to say. Yes, there is. For long quotes, and it says of 40 words or more right here, you block quote it, so you're going to indent 0.5 and do it like this. So Fulcher et al., period, 2011, note the following, comma, for instance, colon. Indent, and then you start with a capital if it begins with one, or you may be beginning with 3 dots or what have you. And then you do your longer than 40-word quote. You end with a period, space, and the page number. Note that the period goes right here, not at the end. It goes right there. All right, is there anything else that I wanted to tell you in here? There are some other things in quirks of APA 7. It looks like you italicize the anchor of scales and Likert scale responses like this. So this is when to italicize some things. So if you're dealing with a more complicated document, you might need to get the book to do what you need to do. This is how you introduce a figure. It is figure 1 like this, followed by the italics title, and there is a space between the two. Note the space. Any notes go at the bottom right here, and note that note is italicized and it is indented, and off you go. Note that for tables, it's like this, table 1 space and then the title, and then any notes go down here. Now let me mention something, my friends. If you're going to be doing any kind of statistical tables in here, that is a whole other issue. So you'll have to look up how to cite whatever it is you're doing, what do you call it? Like a table of, I can't remember the name. It just jumped out of my head. A frequency table, for example, or reporting ANOVA results or crosstabs, like for chi-square or something like that. But I digress. Let me bring you to this last page right here. You see the sample right here? It has got, it contains a ton of examples for authors and other things. I highly recommend that you look through this document and just see if you can't answer your question in here. I've already gone over the comma space, period space stuff, so I'm not doing that again. But look at these examples and use these examples and brighten my day, everybody. All right, that's it. I still dislike APA. Thank you very much for watching this. I hope you found it helpful. I hope you had as much fun watching it as I had fun making it.